Dear viewers, I'm a CXO coach and I'm in conversation with top leaders on CXO challenges and their perspectives on how to deal with them. My guest today is Rajnikant Sabnavis, MD and CEO with Inbrew Beverages. He's an engineering graduate from NIT, Karnataka, and an MBA from SP Jain Institute of Management. Over a long and distinguished career, Rajni has been regional category manager with HUL, vice president with Unilever, chief operating officer with Jyoti Labs Limited, CEO with Future Consumer, and now MD and CEO with Inbrew Beverages. Good morning, Rajni.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for participating in this dialogue on a subject which is very important for CXOs and aspiring CXOs. So Rajni, here are a few issues that seem to concern many CXOs or potential CXOs. So there is this thing that there are a whole lot of managers who all want to grow into a CXO role. So how can they best prepare to step into that role?
Yeah, Ramesh. See, that's an interesting question. I think first I'll start by trying to explain what's the difference between one level below the CXO and the CXO. Really, a CXO is one who obviously is, let's say, in simple cricketing parlance, the best batsman in that team. Yeah, so that's, and not just the oldest one. That apart, he belongs to a table that consists of other CXOs from other functions, and he has to contribute to the overall driving of the company's agenda. So once that is set in place, what typically happens is when you're in a functional role, let's say one step below or two steps below, you're looking very narrowly at your job. Your concern are your goals, your KRAs, your numbers, and your intact teams. But when you hit the CXO level, you're pitchfork now onto the top table. You have to take decisions which are right for the company, very often not necessarily maximizing for your function, but maximizing for the organization and sometimes optimizing for your function. So you've got to be prepared for that. Now, that preparation requires you to have a very deep understanding of how the company works, what's the company's agenda, and we will of course talk a little more about it. What's the kind of strategic direction in which the company is being steered? So in terms of preparation, I think one should start developing what I call a working knowledge of every other function. That's very important. Obviously, you would be leading edge in your own function, but develop a working knowledge of every other function. So let's say you're a sales guy. Start to understand the sales and operations function. Start to understand the pressure of your finance partners. Start to understand how your CHRO is trying to drive the agenda. And I think once you start developing this perspective, and of course, you excel in your own function, it's a very automatic transition into the CXO role. That's what I would say, Ramesh.
So you said many important things. One is, and I want to come to the best batsman bit shortly, but you also said that he should be able to broaden his perspective to taking decisions which are right for the company, not only for his function, right? So that's one key thing. And he should have a thorough understanding of where the company is going, what is the game plan, what is the strategy, and besides that, also knowing how the other functions, what are their challenges, how are they coping, and is there something also that you could do to support them in your own as a CXO?
Absolutely right, Ramesh.
Yeah. So Rajni, this best batsman bit worries me. Okay. So let's say there's a team of managers below the CXO, and one of them is to be promoted. Question is, should it be the best batsman or should it be the best potential manager of people?
So I use the word batsman more in terms of a broader perspective, but you're absolutely right, Ramesh. It has to be the best manager. He has to be very strong with people. And if you have to grow in any company, and again, coming back to the earlier question, as a CXO, you're an enabler for the organization, an enabler across functions. Yeah, so I expect my CFO to be able to think through what challenges my sales head or sales operations head is facing and facilitate that. So you're absolutely right. Going back to your question, he has to be the best manager, the best people manager, if you like. And the batsman analogy was only in a broader
inclusive of that.
Inclusive of
probably you included being the best manager as best batsman when you said that. Perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Rajni, now let's say somebody has become a CXO and there are so many transitions, challenges, changes that need to be done because the organization itself is moving very fast. And so how can a CXO best manage change within his own function as well as beyond?
Yeah, Ramesh, that's a tough one. The simple one-word answer I can give is communication. I think change management is fundamentally about communicating what you're trying to do. I've seen this a few times in my career. I can tell you that change often, you leave aside mindsets. That's another big challenge, of course, which is I don't want to change, I'm set in my ways. The other big challenge is people are confused when you're trying to change. They're not really sure what you're trying to communicate. Are you trying to say everything about the past is bad? Are you trying to say that there's a better way that I can tell you to do things? Are you really sure you know what you're saying? Yeah, that's another big problem because you're dealing with very talented people who are below you and around you. So I think the most important thing is your ability to communicate. What is that change you're trying to do? Yeah, it's not necessary that people are always wanting you to justify things. They just first want to know what is it you're trying to change. Yeah, and then comes the why. Very often, if you're able to communicate clearly the change that you're looking for, people get it. Yeah, they're not lost. Yeah, they get it. So communication, I think, there is no such thing as over communication. Actually, when you're trying to do change management, you should be able to clearly articulate what is this change you're trying to bring about. Is it processes? Is it procedures? Or is it even certain strategic interventions? You just believe that you got to do it differently. Now there's a different place you want to take the company. So communication is the number one and the last when you're trying to create change.
Number one and the last. Okay. So that's great. And communication also, I guess, includes carrying people along.
Yes.
Through the many, hurdles whenever you implement change. What's the need for the change? What are we trying to change, and what's the need for the change? And making people convinced about that, and making them feel secure that we can all do it together, and then in that way carrying them along.
Yeah, so Ramesh, if I put it differently, what you said first and last, first tell people what's the change you want. Then take them through the rationale, the logic, the steps, and then tell them once again what you've just told them. I think it's very important. And you need these interim milestones in your journey when you come back to them and tell them how that whole journey is working. I think that's your whole point about carrying people along. Otherwise, you just lose them.
Yes, Rajni, thanks so much for that response. So viewers, this concludes the first part of my conversation with Rajnikant Sabnavis, MD and CEO of Inbrew Beverages. Do join us in a few days to hear Rajni's views on how CXOs can contribute to strategy development, and also how can they leave a lasting legacy by which they are remembered long after they're gone. Thank you.